I'll try. Thanks, Marshall.
No problem.
All right, folks. Hi, welcome. Today is July 10th. This is our Wednesday's Calpads Q&As. My name is Alex Gandhi. I am a data analyst at CESA supporting Calpads, and driving for us today is Mr. Gary Gerber. Hi, Gary.
Hello.
We don't have a lot in terms of announcements. You all should know EOY submission window is currently open, and the initial deadline is July 26th, just as Gary is showing you up on the screen. July 26th is only 16 days away, and that's counting weekends. So please, folks, make sure that you are within the timelines and that you're going to be able to meet that initial deadline. As a reminder, our suggested milestones, which is thanks, Gary, in our user manual, we suggest that by July 12th, which is this Friday, you should be error-free. That means 0 fatal errors for all EOY submissions. And that is so that you can allow yourself enough time to actually review your reports before hitting that certification or LEA approval button. For this initial deadline, we are only looking for LEA approvals, not SELPA approvals, although SELPA approval is highly recommended. By the final deadline, which is August 16th, we are requiring SELPA approval for end of year 3 and end of year 4. And as a reminder, there are no extensions scheduled or probably even considered for that August 16 deadline. So again, just please be very mindful and have those internal deadlines met, particularly for all the folks out there who are taking vacation. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Angela, Martha, or CDE?
Nothing from
here.
me. Nothing, Alex?
Nothing here.
Awesome. Okay, we'll start off with questions. And we're starting off with Eugenie, SELPA, question 1. One of our districts has a 3-year-old and the initial meeting was held before their 3rd birthday. However, the parent completed enrollment after the meeting date, which is giving a GER 5. What enrollment date should they use?
So the meeting shouldn't be triggering a GER 5. I would only imagine that if the plan was being submitted with a date outside of the enrollment, then that would trigger. But in this situation, if the student was not on an IFSP and they're just starting services on their 3rd birthday, the enrollment date would be their 3rd birthday.
Thanks, Dominic. Moving on to Shelley from Hacienda La Puente Q1. How important are reports 3.9 and 3.14? Do they affect dashboard or something else? Please share links to documentation for support. 3.9 is course sections completed, and 3.14 is the CTE count. But it's a non-completer participant. How critical are they to the dashboard? I don't know.
They show your completion. They show your completion numbers. So that's where you want to go through and ensure that your counts are correct. You're seeing your students once you hit the drill down reports as well too. So yes, if your students are CTE completers, yes, that is important. If they are, and then just overall completers, yes, that's additionally important. So you want to make sure that you're capturing both. Shelley, you can find that. I don't have the link readily available. Gary, I don't know if you can pull it up as fast. It is the dashboard to Calpads to the dashboard guide. And it was shared out recently, I believe.
So non-completers are not on the dashboard, but I don't know if Perkins, when you do your Perkins reporting, if you have to have those numbers.
It goes into the definition of the non-completers, and the way that report delineates out, Martha, is a little different for federal reporting. So the dashboard guide goes into that one.
Okay. Thanks, folks. Moving on to Claudia from Hawthorne, Q1. She says, is there a problem with the upload process? This was working just fine on Monday. Exiting student for 23-24 and then re-enrolling them for 24-25. After uploaded the exit records and getting it posted, I'm uploading the re-enroll file for 24-25. The file is getting rejected because although it says that it is posted, the student's exit records are not being updated. And the re-enrollment file fails. I'm getting double the amount of errors per total records in the file. The errors are SENR 27 and SENR 178. I haven't heard of this being a widespread issue. I don't know if any of the other analysts or trainers have seen this be reported yet.
I haven't. When she says I'm posting re-enroll for 24-25 and then student exits, is that correct? Why would they shouldn't be exiting 24-25 yet?
No, exiting for the 23-24 and then re-enrolling them for the 24-25.
Oh.
Yeah. I think maybe, Claudia, we would need a ticket. If you can give us the job ID for the exiting and then the job ID for the new enrollments, then we can take a look and see. And also it would be super helpful if you could also include an SSID example so that we can just narrow down on a specific case that we can then escalate as a bug if needed. And you can put my name on it if you want. Asya, Q1. When will report certification 1.22 become available? It is, I think, unless it wasn't rendering for some folks.
I did have that a ticket like that this morning, Alex, where my user was a medium-ish district. It wasn't very large, but they were having trouble rendering it. I made a mental note to come back and check that tomorrow, but as a workaround, either report 1.23 has the detailed version of that data, or there's a supporting report extract for 1.23 as well that will show them the same data.
Didn't miss a beat, Angela.
Right?
Should go on vacation more often.
Kathy from Union Elementary, Q1. Which programs need to be ended at the end of the school year and which can remain open? Common question. So we do have a really cool chart on our data guide that gives you a list of all of our programs and whether or not you are expected to end date them at the end of the school year or not. Ultimately, though, I would say that it really is a local decision and whatever is going to work best for your local practices. I know that there are some districts out there that even though they're not required to close them out at the end of the year, they decide that they need to in order to keep things clean. And then they have a process for how to identify the students that should have the programs opened up again. But if you wanted to just know from our standpoint what Calpads is expecting so that it doesn't generate an error for you, I suggest you take a look at this data guide, and that is
Page 54.
Thank you, page 54. Moving on, Jan, Q1. Hey, Jan. Question 1 says, vendors have never been asked to submit SINF records along with the SENR and SELA records for summer ELPAC testing. However, Flash 279 now lists that as a requirement. What's up with that? I think it was always part of the requirement. I just don't know, maybe we haven't explicitly stated that SINF was needed, particularly because when you request an SSID, a stub SINF record is created for you already. I don't know if anyone else has any other info or if we changed it, but I don't think we did.
I would agree that I think there's expectation was that you always follow up with the SINF because it gives us the demographics of the student, because when the stub record's created, it doesn't have any of that. And we need a SELA record for summer testing.
So I have a question back. The vendors, the vendors aren't submitting it directly. It's just the LEA. So is there a place in there? Jan, is there a place in there specifically where we said vendors? I have 279 up. Okay. Jan, if you can send us an email, if you can include Martha and Angela, that'd be great.
And move on to Susan. Q1 says, I have an issue with the CERT 131 errors. I am dealing with all my LEAs in EOY 3. I have not exited students from their schools for the 23-24 school year because I am still adding SPRG records to Calpads. The only way to clear the CERT 131 seems to be to exit the students. However, the guidance I was given is not to exit them until I finish adding all the SPRG records. Please advise.
I think it's a GER 5 potentially if they're exited, but why are we still adding SPRG records this late? School year's over.
There's usually not that many program records for end of year 2 for anyways, right?
Right.
And as long as the program start and end dates are within the bounds of the enrollment, even if the exit's closed, the enrollment's closed, it should not trigger the GER 5.
Unless she's given us an open-ended program record, right, Angela?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is if you did want to just avoid any GER 5s, you'd need to try to get those SPRG posted as soon as possible. And then the only way to resolve the CERT 131 is to exit them. And then Susan replies, this July
I see
12th.
this adjusted resolution. Sorry, Alex. It says to exit the students with a date prior to 8/16 of the subsequent academic reporting year. So I don't see where it says don't exit the student for CERT 131.
No, she's saying that she was told not to exit the students because she still has SPRG records to upload. And so potentially she could trigger the GER 5 depending on the program records that she's uploading. So not necessarily, I don't think, because that's guidance within the resolution for CERT 131, but just because she's still uploading SPRG records.
Yeah, so once she's done uploading her SPRG records, then she can go in and then close out her student records to clear that error.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but she's up against the clock because we're looking for zero errors by this Friday. And in her additional note, she's saying how it's very stressful. And Susan, I would bring this to your leadership's attention because the goal of CDE is to have shorter EOY collection windows. And so next year it's going to be even shorter. And so we're utilizing the July 12th as a milestone to get people to the zero. So you're going to be poised to be successful next year because you want to have your data on the dashboard. You want to get certified on time, and you're going to have shorter and shorter windows to make that happen. So bring this to your leadership's attention about how much work you have to do and before this Friday, and see if your local practices need to be adjusted for the shorter timelines.
And I would also mention, that theoretically, what we've always said is that end of year 2 should be your easiest submission because you should have been providing us the SPRG records throughout the entire school year, right? And so at the end, again, theoretically, you shouldn't have to give us
usually not that many, yeah.
Right, because the students would have already been captured and those records would have already been in there. And so I think what I would, if I were in your shoes, I would say, what are the program records that you're still struggling with at the end of the year? Identify what those are, and potentially that's what you need to tackle for next year. Try to figure out, is it a local data population issue? Is it something that you can have a game plan so that you're not stuck doing all these bulk uploads now, and they could have already been in there from the get-go.
And then, Susan, to address your last comment about the deadline being the 26th, we recognize the deadline is the 26th, but with good data management practices, you want to give yourself, your organization, ample time to review all the data on those reports. What we have historically found, the LEAs that end up with bad data on the dashboard are those LEAs that are still cleaning up validations days before the deadline. So we're trying to help LEAs be in a better position to have higher quality data because they give themselves more time to review the data, that they're not cleaning up data all the way up until the deadline. And so that's another reason 2 weeks prior to a deadline, we're looking for zero validations to allow organizations to spend more time evaluating the data. There's a lot that goes on the dashboard that impacts LEAs. And so we feel the best practice is to give organizations should give themselves ample time to review it. People may be on vacation and, 2 weeks may seem a lot, but it may not if somebody's going to be gone for, 5 of those days. So that's the other reason for zero validations well before the deadline.
Alex, if I could just kind of ride on your coattails for a second. I believe the data guide also includes in there a statement about Calpads should never be more than 14 days out of date with your SIS. So if you do need written documentation to help support a change in a workflow, you could go back to that as well, saying that you should be doing regular updates to that data so your end of year data and your fall 1-2 submissions also are a little bit cleaner and a little bit easier.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to move on now to Albert from West Covina. Q1 says, a parent contacted me earlier that she did not receive her summer EBT, but there are program records for free reduced lunch in Calpads for this school year. Where else should I look to determine if the parent should have received benefits?
I posted the Flash 269 into the chat, Alex. Albert, I would follow the guidance in 269. It's going to be dependent upon, there's several submission deadlines there for when Calpads is collecting or pulling the information there for you. It depends on the student when that program record was updated. Also, if that student had a SINF record that was updated. If the LEA themselves have specific questions, there's an email where the LEA only can reach out. That should be the Calpads administrator that utilizes that email and reaches out. Please do not give that email out to parents. And that, I believe the hotline is out and available. I didn't find that information readily available. I believe it was in a digest message, but you can ask the LEA can ask the hotline email or the summer EBT email for that hotline number to be able to give out to parents that specifically.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
It says, I have been waiting for more than 2 hours. I can't remember now what we were talking about.
Claudia was the one that she posted her exits and then turned around to try to do the 24-25. So I think our original answer still stands, Claudia. Just put in a ticket for us and we'll do a little bit more digging for you on that one.
Yeah. Okay. Jennifer from Berkeley, Q1, regarding the graduation exempt indicator, is that only as it pertains to AB 167-216 and AB 2121?
I don't know what either of those ABs are off the top of my head, but what I can tell you is that the graduation exemption indicator may apply to all students, but that is dependent upon your LEA. And so your LEA specifically, each LEA specifically has guidelines for graduate exemption for students meeting state standards. So you would need to refer back to your LEA, Jennifer, to ensure that you're meeting what is in your family-facing documentation.
And I would add, I think why it comes up is that we recently added that field, but the law was always that districts had the ability to waive their local requirements as long as they met the state that they could graduate. And so the state wants to start tracking that. The legislature wants to look at those numbers. And so we added the field so we could track how many of the students that do graduate had exemptions associated to their diploma, because we didn't have that information before.
Thank you, Martha. And then
Yep.
Rebecca also posted the ed code in there for you, Jennifer, that specifically states for graduate exemption. Thanks, Rebecca.
Sharing is caring. That's Rebecca's motto. Ashley, I see your question too. I'll circle back. Suzanne, I see your comment. I think you ended up doing a follow-up on your original one, so I'm skipping that one. Doug says, if you keep shorting the EOY window, you're going to have to reduce the info required. And then there's follow-ups saying, agreed, 100%. We will also need a system that uploads files on our end much quicker and gives us more than one snapshot every 24, 36 hours. It's very difficult to make uploads, corrections on time if we have to wait to harvest money each time we try to upload.
All understood. There are some options though too, Dan, is that what we're hoping is that LEAs reduce the amount of errors that they get by working with their SIS vendors to implement more validations to catch the problems before the data gets into your SIS. So that is another way of helping alleviate all of the work that you do during the submission window. If you're spending, a month cleaning up data, somebody in the organization should be asking, how can we have better data so we don't have to spend so much time cleaning it up? And working with your SIS vendors might uncover some solutions to improve that aspect of things.
Melissa, Q1. Is there a plan to update the data guide and the SSID and enrollment procedures stock soon?
Yes. So we have Melissa. If you're new to our Calpads organization, welcome. We've discussed this one previously. I am actively working on the SSID and enrollment procedures. How soon it will be out, I don't know. It has to go through revisions. It's already gone through 2 revisions. It's now in its 3rd revision to ensure that we get the most accurate information out to you. The SPED data guide, thank you, Dominic. He has already placed that one out. I believe Milo put it in the chat a little bit earlier. Am I misspeaking?
Yeah, not all of it.
Okay.
It's going to go into into a similar document like the user manual that's in Calpads.
Thank you. Thank you for the corrections. And then the gen ed portion of the data guide, Paula Mashima is working on that one. And it's my understanding that yes, it will go into a similar format like Martha mentioned. But again, that takes time, and putting things on the web is not an easy process. It's not hard, but it's not easy, just because once it's there, you can't really take it down. So we do want to ensure that things are correct and accurate for the LEA. So yes, is it a process? Yes. Are we working on it? Yes.
Alrighty. Larney from Oxnard, Q1. Question regarding Flash 274, reporting summer high school graduates. Am I understanding correctly that for students who are graduating in the summer, we will send an enrollment start and end date of the actual date the student completed the high school requirements? So if they enrolled summer school on 7/2/24 and completed the high school requirement at the end of the summer school of July 26, 24, we will send an enrollment record of of July 5th, 2024, and exit date of 7/5/2024, correct? If this is
No.
correct, we were just informed by our SIS that the SENR extract from our SIS will pull the record and will be tagged as graduate for 24/25 and not 23/24 because the dates are after July 1st. This is per CDE's guidance. Isn't this conflicting information?
Sorry, Alex, that was a lengthy question and I didn't realize, I didn't mean to interrupt. So Larnie, the date that you would put in is the date that the student actually completed their summer school or their graduation requirements within summer school. So if that date that they completed is 7/26, then you would put in 7/26. I don't understand the 7/5 date or where that's coming from. Maybe it's just a typo from the 2 and the 5 being close to each other and the number keypad.
And then my comment about your vendor using the academic year 24/25, I think that's okay because Calpads is not looking at the academic year when it pulls in the data into the cohort. It's looking for any exits up through August 15th of 2024. And so these summer grads would be included in that subset because we look at all exits up through August 15th.
Yeah, so all that seems to jive, I think. Now we get to circle back to OSCEOS Q2. And that says we are using report 1.23 to review. However, it's not a certification report. When certifying EOI 3, we need to have report 122. Report 1.22 is not rendering for me.
Dominic pointed out that that is a known issue. So it is in our next release on Tuesday.
Wonderful. Anonymous. Q1 is it recommended to wait until we certify for EOI before processing transfer requests for fall from other districts, or can we process the request? Not sure what you mean by processing transfer requests.
Just future enrollments?
Or maybe special education records from the special education data system.
That's what I was thinking, Dominic.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
wait, which transfer request are you speaking about? Like they're multiple.
Yeah, it really depends on whether or not all of the data that you need to submit up for the students have been sent up. Typically, you'd want to check with case managers or program specialists to make sure that no further work needs to be done on the student records before they're transferred, before they're released to the other LEAs.
I remember last year there was a reason why Brandy was asking people to hold off. And I don't know if that was the old design that we didn't want to have.
Yeah, I think it was related to that because when the record would transfer over, people would adopt the plan, but it would be in the old format and not be usable.
Oh, and then they clarify that yes, for SPED info system, forgot to add that part. No worries. Okay, that's it for the questions.
Oh, it's only 3:30.
What?
Dominic answered them all on Monday.
I would say that, but you should see our ticket stack waiting to get answered.
Yeah, I know.
Relatable.
Well, we're glad to have you back, Angela. I'm glad you had a nice vacation, but
Yes.
you know, welcome back.
Hard to get my head wrapped around everything. So thank you, Dominic, for the assist. I'm still scrubbing through my emails. So
I really can't. If you're talking about the 1.22, I can't take any credit for that. Nicole Spiva mentioned it in a comment that it was a known issue that she was having, so I just dropped it in the chat. So credit where credit's due.
Thank you both.
We have another question from Natasha from Escondido Q1. Any update on when we can expect that upcoming flash regarding the TK TBD records? I don't know.
I don't know what flash we're talking about. So if Mary Ann's on the call, I'll defer to her because I wasn't here for that one.
I think Paula had mentioned in one of the listservs that there was going to be a follow-up based on the letter that was sent out to superintendents or to the EL coordinator. I forget who.
Yeah, I don't believe that's coming from our office. I believe that's coming from the EL office for that. And they've got a new name, multilingual, multicultural. It's something that office has a new name, so I'm not sure the name of the office to know who's following up, but I don't believe it's Mary Ann. From what I recall, it wasn't us. Natasha, you can put it in as a ticket and I'll follow up.
Okay. Moving on to Stephanie. Do you have an answer on foreign exchange students who earn a completion of certification and not a high school diploma? How do we status them in Calpads?
That's
Remember,
FAQ.
remember, he's already driving to it.
Okay.
It's in the top one. It's
There's one
click
on
the
graduate.
answer. There you go. It's just embedded in that answer. Yeah. And the SSID, the question.
And so I think it's that last sentence, right? It's
Because if you don't transfer them out of the US, then they're part of your cohort.
Yeah.
T240. Oh, and Jan answered the same thing. Another question from Anonymous, or maybe a different Anonymous, I don't know. Q1 says, why does it take so long to fix known issues? Currently, you have 60 plus known issues. It's very frustrating.
Every known issue has to be researched and the developer then has to work on it, get the right fix, and it has to be tested. And we only have so many resources to work on that. And so we have a weekly cadence of what we can get done each week. And the items that are the most severe, highest priority, jump in front of ones that, may have, they're important, but there's others that got in front of it. So that's why it takes so long. We don't have infinite amount of resources. So we can't get them all done the same week. We have to.
We do focus our priorities on the high severity tickets. So you'll see some of those items are pretty old because they're low or medium and they're not necessarily going to stop you from certifying, but maybe are just a cosmetic issue or just more of a nuisance rather than a problem.
Or they got discovered after the collection closed. And so before we do the next one, we want to be sure we get those defects fixed, but they weren't urgent at that time. We do our best with the resources we have.
Vicki from Charter Oak, question 1, just to be sure, we have 4 grade 12 and PS students who did not earn a certificate of completion. Would I exit them with E156 code with the expectation that they will return in the coming year? That is my understanding. Students that are going to be continuing on for special education services and transition should be coded within E156. And then at the end, once they age out or complete their certificate of completion, then they can be coded with that. Oh, I forget now. 120?
Yes.
Thank you. And I think that there is an FAQ on this too.
Do you want me to look it up?
No, well, I'm assuming if Dominic isn't chiming in that we're saying the right thing. James.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't realize that was a SPED related question. Let me find it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay.
Sorry.
All good. Asia, question 3. If we certify end of year 3 using data from report 1.23, since 122 is not available, is it reasonable to assume that report 122 will have the same data, but on summary level, as what's in the detail report 123? Or should we wait for 122? It should be, both of those should work hand in hand, right? So your aggregate report drills down to your student detail. So whatever your student detail has it's just when you aggregate it, it should be the same totals as what's in your aggregate. Whether or not you should wait for 1.22, what you could do, a good tweener perhaps, is you could set your EOY 3 as in review, and that way it freezes that report with your 0 certification errors. Then once the fix goes in and the report actually renders, then you can just double check just to be sure, and then you can go ahead and LEA approve next Tuesday after the fix goes in. Okay. Anonymous says, we do the best we can with our limited resources as well. Chantel from Heritage Peak Charter, Q1. What do you mean by set to in review? On your certification details page, when you drill into a particular submission, fall 1, end of year, whichever one, at the top right-hand corner where you see your status, there should be a checkbox that shows you, it gives you an option to set to in review. When you select in review, what it does is you're essentially freezing that revision. So that specific certification with whatever, if you have certification errors, whatever the reports look like, it's just frozen in time. That is helpful for when you have 0 errors and you're just waiting for review for reports, for example. So let's pretend that you have 0 certification errors and you're pretty sure that the reports look okay, but you still want your admins to take a look at it just to provide feedback. So what you could do is set that checkbox to in review, and Gary's showing you where it would be. We don't see it on our end as a state user, but it would be around that area where he's hovering over. And when you check that box in review, it freezes those records. And so what you avoid by doing that is that if there's any new data that's coming in, you're not losing that revision, right? Because with any new posts, any new updates that you make in Calpads for your data, you're triggering a new revision in the back end. And so you can continue working and sending up data, but it won't impact those reports in that revision that you've set as in review anymore. And so it's kind of like you have it as a backup. You have it in the back pocket, ready to go.
Alex, do you remember if you covered that in your short little video on how to toggle between revisions?
Good.
I have the link for that. Chantal, I'll post that in the chat. Alex did a nice little video about moving between at least revised and certified and certified, but she might cover how to mark it as in review as well. Oh,
and if she didn't, we have a video on the regular certification process that we would have talked about it. The tricky part of setting a revision to in review is it becomes the default. And so then all you see is in review, and you have to know to click the down arrow to go find the latest revision. So people sometimes like, I didn't get a new revision for days. And when they really did, it was just buried underneath the in review and they didn't think to click on that.
And the other thing I would also caution is some people like to use it even though they have certification errors. And I'm not really sure why that would be beneficial. But again, just to reiterate, it freezes it, right? And so if you do put it in review and you still have certification errors, you're going to clean up those errors, but that in review won't show that you've done it, right? So you, like Martha said, you need to toggle back to your revised and certified. So I would suggest avoid the headache. Don't set in review if you still have errors because that it doesn't really benefit anything. I think truly it's for purposes of you're ready to go. You're just waiting for feedback or something like that. And you just want to make sure that it doesn't get changed. Hopefully that helps out. Okay. Back to 0 questions. All right. Eva, Saugus Union Q1. Hi there. I have my data and in review status and so far certified end of year 1 and end of year 2. With end of year 3, I have that in revision and I found 6 students that were RFEP'd on July 31st, 2023. I tried going into their enrollment and removing their end of year date and exit code so I can change the date, but I am unable to do so. Is this because I have end of year 3 in the revision review? Am I unable to change the SELA record? No. When you said submission in that in review status, you're still able to make any and all updates as you normally would. It wouldn't stop you from making any updates. I would wonder what error you're getting when you're trying to remove.
I was saying the date that she used, Alex, is 7/31. Is that because it's outside of probably their school year?
I think it's more. I think they were just
enrollment date. To Angela's point. Sorry, Kai. Go.
Oh, I think she's just replacing the date. You need to delete the RFEP record and recreate it.
Yeah, but it has to match a date where they're enrolled. And so that would go back to Flash 219 and who recalls the recent Flash number? It just came out.
28X.
There you go. There you go. Oh, we see Mark.
And Alex, I did place in the chat for all the pinpoints for the using the revision status from the long video. So if you just copy that and click on those links, it'll take you to where Nate is explaining everything about revisions.
Thanks, Marshall. And then Eva does say that she was afraid to delete it. So, and then asked, do I still need to remove the end date from their enrollment record?
No,
I don't think you do.
Yeah. You should. Sorry, Alex.
It's all good.
I think it's 277.
That's what I found too, Sean. 277. I'll type that in for Eva as well.
Thank you.
Marissa, Q1. For end of year 4, wanted to confirm that there will not be a 16.x report to certify data related to indicator 8 and 13. We need to pull ODS meet extract to review indicator 13 and 16.21, 16.24 for indicator 13, correct? Says Dominic written all over it.
Yeah, and just as I unmute, my dogs go berserk. So yeah, we gotta love that. Yeah, I don't believe that there will be reports that will be certifying data with those indicators using the ODS meet file extract and the 1621 reports is the best bet for right now.
And then Marissa follows up saying ODS meet for indicator 8.
She was correcting what she put in her original.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. And I read it too and went right along with it. But yeah, parent involvement is part of the meet file. And so you would need to look at your ODS meet records.
Okay. Thanks, Eva. And good job on being almost done with your submissions. A Q1 for Dan says, we are often told many times that we need to speak with our admin and leadership if we are falling behind on Calpads uploads. At the last site conference in Sacramento, someone asked if we could get an email that outlined the new amount of work that LEAs have to do now in order to upload files and extracts, how that has changed over the past 5 years, and what new processes and tasks we need to do. Also, a list of the high severity known issues the system has had in that time. I was told that we would be getting that. Was this ever sent out? If so, may I receive that as well?
Now, I
No.
didn't attend a site conference, but
I'm
I would
wondering,
say,
Dan, if you know who said that to you, were they a CDE employee?
but I would say the best documentation for that and the workload and the amount and the deadlines, though, Dan, would be the wonderful document that Angela creates for each submission period, and that is a roadmap that has it delineates out, which files are to be submitted, also the reports that are to be reviewed. It encompasses the RACI documentation that was created a few years back. So that way everyone has a full grasp of what information for your LEA in totality that is to be completed and how that information can't always come from the Calpads LEA admin. There have to be other administrators to review the work and ensure its accuracy.
And the department does send out a back to school letter to the superintendents, and that is on the communication page. So you can see what they have sent to leadership so far.
And Dan does say that it was asked during the Q&A at the conference.
I know I didn't attend from the Calpads office. We were asked to attend the site conference earlier this year. It conflicted with something else, so I could not personally make it. So I know I did not attend that last site conference. So who in the Q&A might have asked that question or responded to it? Dan, that's why Angela was asking, was it a CDE employee?
Yeah.
Normally there isn't a session called Q&A, so I'm still not clear what session it was at. Because there's a variety of sessions that had Calpads as the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Gary does have that roadmap open. Just to clarify, Sean, that's not created by me. That's a collaborative effort by CESA staff. So, and
Yeah,
Gary, I
thanks,
noticed you. Yeah, I noticed you. Now you had to type it in, but if you just go to the homepage, Gary, just to show how how easy it is to find on the user manual's homepage. So under help, user manual, and it's right in the middle of the EOI roadmap.
Right.
Thank you, Angela, for giving credit where credit is due. To everyone at CESA, thank you, because it is a guide that many of us live by still.
I just want to jump back to Marissa's question about indicator 8. Kara from Placer noticed that report 16.24 is active, and report 16.24 is a students with disabilities meetings list, and that has the parent involvement facilitation code reported there as well.
That's the new ODS report you guys were waiting on, and the developers did get that done sooner rather than later.
That's awesome.
I think it went in Tuesday.
Okay. We are once more without questions, but we are closer to 4. So we could call it, give you 10 minutes to go, I don't know, cool down if you're in a very hot spot before getting back to work. Have any other questions that we maybe didn't answer, you can submit that as a ticket to us. And we will be here next week. Same time, same link.
Sounds good.
Good job.
All right. Thank you, folks. Stay cool out there.